Well, we're back.
We're back
Again. Just the two of us.
again.
And your stupid
Coming off
Dodgers
a great
jersey.
episode. Oh, please. Stop, dude. For everybody who doesn't know already, Scott's not even a baseball fan, and he hates the Dodgers more than any Giants fan, more than any other actual fan of baseball. Doesn't hate the Dodgers as much as Scott does. He's just an all-time hater.
I mean, look, you got this jersey hanging up. I don't see any photos of you and Sierra. Let me put that out there. For those watching the video, he idolizes a baseball team more than his soon-to-be marriage. I want that to be known. I'm honestly surprised that you're not wearing a Dodgers hat and a Dodgers jersey right now. Tell me this. If you lifted up your shirt right now, would you have body paint that has one of the letters for the Dodgers on your chest?
Well, I actually have each letter tattooed on each pec, so it reads LA, and it's permanent ink. I just can't show that on camera.
Let's get into it. Welcome. You got another comeback?
No, not a comeback. I was just gonna say, screw you. You're gonna have me in the doghouse for this picture thing, bro. What the heck is that about?
Not my fault. That's on you.
Oh my gosh.
To the Pursuit of Property podcast, hosted by big Dodgers fan Cade Barrett and anti-Dodgers fan Scott Farrow. Glad to have you guys here. Cade, lead us off. What are we talking about today?
Today we're going to be talking about, I'm going to use the term stoplight KPIs, stoplight reports. All of these things are just really key KPI metrics for your business. And so you and I have had a lot of conversations with a couple different people in the industry. This has been one of the focal points for our company's coaching from our business coach, who has told us to get dialed in with the things that you are tracking and the things you need to be looking for in your business. And so we're going to cover a couple different things. We're going to talk a lot of operational and kind of higher level KPIs, financial KPIs that go into the stoplight. But then we'll also include some sales stuff, because obviously a lot of our listeners, you guys are wearing the sales hat. You guys may be wearing the business owner hat at the same time as well. And so it can't be understated the importance of some of these things. So the first thing I want to talk about is just from a higher level. And I'm going to term this kind of the CEO dashboard. One, I didn't coin it. Two, it's just kind of it's exactly what our CRM calls it. We've tracked these KPIs for quite a bit of time now. But now our CRM is allowing us to kind of see all of this information in one spot for the first time, which is really nice. We're not feeling like we're behind the curve. We can understand this information, and we know exactly how to interpret it. So in terms of stoplight stuff, we talked about meeting structure, right? This was maybe 2 episodes ago. I think it was the one right before last where we had Jenny, your sales coach, come on. And for those who haven't listened to that episode, please go back. It'll help with this conversation. But just like meetings have a structure in terms of how frequent they're happening and kind of what the goals you're extracting from there, KPIs work very similar. You're tracking KPIs on a daily basis. You're tracking other KPIs on a weekly basis. You're tracking others on monthly, some on quarterly, and then obviously big on the year. And so let's just start from this higher level of the CEO dashboard. As a business owner, whether you are a solopreneur or you are the business owner of a small to medium-sized team, I would argue that we're a medium-sized team. So anybody our scale and above is most likely doing this if they're successful. And anybody at a lower level, smaller team, should absolutely be getting these dialed in, because it's only going to help you more once you've scaled a little bit more. So we are tracking in real time, okay, the number of closings that are happening. And we're reviewing those on a weekly basis. So whenever we exit a property, that is either selling a flip, selling a wholesale, or closing escrow on a wholesale where we are making an assignment fee, We are updating that in real time, and then that is part of the weekly KPIs that we are reviewing as a leadership team. Why is that important? Okay. Most of our listeners who are business owners in the real estate space, they set goals, right? We've talked about goal setting on plenty of podcasts before, and goal setting typically happens at the end of Q3, beginning of Q4 of the previous year for the following year. So when you have a revenue target or you want to close a certain number of deals, right? You should be going into the new year with that target. But how in the world do you know, now that we're in 2025, we had a goal, our company, to close/exit 100 deals this year. So unless you're keeping track of that somewhere and you're reviewing it on a weekly basis, one, you don't know how close to your target you are. Two, and I would argue this is the most important, we've just passed the halfway mark through this year. How much do we have to catch up? Okay? Because going into this year, we knew we had to close/exit 2 deals per week. Okay? And we're behind that target right now, and we know we're behind it because we've been tracking it. So now, on this back half of the year, Scott, are we going to have to close 2 deals per week to hit our goal? No. We're going to have to hit more than 2. We're going to have to now be closer to on an average of 4 deals per week to hit our goal. Okay, so you've got to be tracking that on a weekly basis. And I'm going to use closed deals and also revenue target. Those are kind of shared KPIs because as a closed deal happens, you're bringing in ideally revenue from that deal. So on those targets, you have to be reviewing them on a weekly basis so that you know how you're going to pivot your business one way or the other. Are you ahead of your goal? Are you on track? That's ideally the perfect scenario. So you're going to keep your foot on the gas and blow past your goals. Or if you're in our scenario, you're running a little bit behind. What changes are you going to make in your business to make sure that you hit those goals that you set? That's the importance of tracking some of these KPIs. So on a weekly basis, we are reviewing how many deals did we close this week, what amount of revenue did they bring in, and how much closer does that get us to our target relative to how far we are through the year. Have I missed anything while covering that?
I don't know. I guess I have some thoughts. One is, when you're looking to hit a goal, we don't do contracts to say that we hit our goal. We're looking at the profit, right? At the end of the day, it's the profit goal that leads all other goals. If we could do one deal that does all the profit for the year, that's better than doing the contract goal, right? So don't let sub goals convolute what the purpose of tracking these numbers are, right? The goal of any business is to make money. And so that would be something I would point out. And also don't let, those contract goals lull you into a sense of comfort. Like, well, I'm on track on contracts. Well, if you're under on profit, then you're behind, right?
That's exactly right.
So this is kind of a big point to take away. And then the other thing is, and this is more to the defense of the company here, is, when you're setting a stretch goal, if you're coming off of a year and you're trying to do a 20% or 30% increase in the following year, it should be planned and expected that there is ramp up, right? You don't just jump because it says 2025 to 20 or 30% better. It's ramping up to that. So you should typically start a little behind and then ramp up, and towards the end of the year be outpacing your target. Because if you're doing this right, you're planning 2026, which should be even greater than 2025. So you need to kind of be ramping up into the 2026 performance.
Yeah, and I mean, you make a great point there too, because if you are looking to increase those goals, year over year, if nothing changes, nothing's going to change. If the state of your business is staying the same, your business that got you to hit this goal is not going to be the same business that's going to allow you to hit a bigger goal. Unless another COVID happens and money's flying out of everybody's house left and right, your business and the structure of how you do things is going to have to change. So I think that ties into exactly what you were saying, where one, you have to know and understand there's going to be that ramp up period with the changes and the tweaks you're making within the business structure. But two, you can't be discouraged. You can't let you, knowing there's a ramp up period, to then get discouraged and say, okay, well, we're not going to hit it. Let's change our goals. Let's make them lower. Let's pull our foot off the gas pedal and, just let shit happen. And I know we've had to come to terms with, okay, we know there's this ramp up period. We know our business is going through a lot of changes. We know it's getting, structured differently. We have to, more than ever in this position, double down our foot on the gas pedal and not let up and not let it discourage us. So, this segues into another, key financial number that needs to be tracked within your business and why it's important. And this number will start to show as you conglomerate number of closed deals and average number of revenue or profit that you're bringing in per deal. And that's the average revenue per deal across every single deal that you've closed this year. What's the average revenue? And this comes back to a lot of people like to go hunt and find the next contract, find the next deal. And they get, salespeople get that high from signing the contract, getting another closed deal. And then it's handed off. All right, where do I find the next one? Where's the next seller I get to talk to? Where's the next contract I get to sign? But we need to know, you need to know as a CEO or as a business owner, what's the average revenue you're bringing in per deal? Are you signing good deals? Are you signing medium deals? Do you have a combination of both? But as you start to hone in and get that average revenue you're bringing in per deal, it allows you to make higher level business decisions in terms of cash flow forecasting and goal setting. So Scott, you and I, we have at the end of Q3, beginning of Q4, you and I and the leadership team are going to sit down and say, okay, this year we've been running our average revenue per deal of $27,000 in terms of our forecasting. That helped us set our financial goal for the year. When we're planning for next year, are we going to use the average revenue per deal of $27,000 from 2024? No, it's outdated financial data and it's not going to be the right rudder to steer the ship. We're going to need to use the average revenue per deal in 2025 as the best indicator to choose our goals for 2026. So as you guys are closing deals, one, you need to have a person in this seat. You need to have a basic understanding of, okay, how can I determine what my average revenue was on this deal, this closed flip, this wholesale, whatever it is. Okay, now that I'm sitting here at the end of 2025, planning for 26, I've closed X amount of deals for X amount of money. Next year, I want to increase 10, 15, 20%, whatever it is for your goal. Okay, that means now I need to close X amount of deals per week for an average revenue of X amount of dollars. Okay, the more clarity that we get on these KPIs is the more clear of a path that you have to hitting those goals. So average revenue per deal has been a big one for us. 2024 was $27,000. 2025 year to date as of today, we're at $24,161. So we know average revenue per deal has come down a little bit, and we're going to see how the rest of the year plays out until we're planning for 2026. So we've talked about number of closings on a weekly basis. We've talked about the average revenue per deal that's bringing in. What was the third one? Why did I just blank? We talked about two at the beginning. Regardless, those three kind of big CEO KPIs are going to be the biggest driver for your business goals as you're sitting here, not only in real time prepping for what the rest of the year is going to look like, but what changes you needed to make now or what pivots you need to make now in order to hit your goals as you currently stand.
I think there's a big KPI that I already said that you missed.
Which one?
I don't care how much money you make in revenue. How much money do you take home?
You're 100% right.
If you're spending $100,000 more to make, $100,000 more, you just are spending money to make the same amount back. There's no ROI on it. So that would be numero uno KPI. How much profit did you take?
And what's the difference between profit and revenue? Why are those not the same thing? You know what's funny? Screw you for that. I got a complete side note, but I got an email from Fresno State today, and it said, "Your digital diploma is ready to download, and they want me to pay me $5 for it." And it was like, share with your family and friends to show off your accomplishment. I'm like, fantastic. 2 years of my fucking life sitting in school, and now I get to pull out my phone and snap an Instagram story of a digital diploma saying how educated I am. Living the life.
At least your face isn't on it. No. All right. So the big difference, revenue, is how much money you pull in before you account for the cost to do business, right? All the salaries, the tools, the rents, the insurances, the taxes, all those different things, right? For our sake, we're going to leave the taxes out. But if you're making $1 million in revenue, but you spent $800,000 to make that, then you really only made $200,000. And so that's the big piece here. And so as we're scaling up, one of the things that we've struggled with is we haven't struggled, but like having to accept is that when you're increasing your team's size and their compensation, and when you have increased marketing costs, right, to continue to increase the amount of deals coming through the pipeline, and then you start seeing repairs creeping up, and you start seeing all these different costs creeping up with inflation. God forbid, we all knew this would happen. What you start to see is profit margin will drop until your marketing starts paying itself back, right? We know that it takes time for a dollar that you spend on a marketing piece. It takes time for that money to come back with friends. And as you're increasing staffing, they don't start at full production, right? There's a training period. There's a getting them up to speed period. And so you start seeing like, okay, you may be doing more business, but you may be making less profit temporarily, and you have to accept that that is part of investing in a business.
100%. And I mean, you hit the nail on the head in two ways. Obviously, revenue being important, and I'm talking about this on a deal-specific level. Obviously, there's a higher level in terms of all business financials from all your closed deals and all of your business expenses. What is the business's profit? But if we look at deal specific, right? Let's say you had a wholesale come in and you wholesaled a deal for $30,000. You're exactly right. How do we determine the profit from that? Is, okay, are you paying out any salespeople? Are you a small to medium sized team, and are you paying out an acquisitions agent? Because just because the business got a wire in the bank for $30,000 doesn't mean the business is keeping all of that $30,000. So determining that key number one indicator of profit is going to be big. Before, and we'll pick your brain a little bit, Scott, on maybe some key, leading indicators on the sales side for some Stoplight KPIs. But I'm going to run through a couple different ones that we look at on a weekly basis and why they're important. Okay. We are looking at every week. Okay. Not only how many closings or exits did we have, but on deals that we own, properties that we own. Okay. These properties that we either flipped or wholetailed. How many flips have been on the market?
Before you jump into this, explain why you're going in the order you're going. You're first talking about closed deals, and then you're moving backwards. Closed deals, is that a leading or lagging indicator? What's it? And what's leading and what's lagging?
Closed deals is a lagging indicator because it's contingent on these other factors I'm running through. These other factors that are coming after the fact, they are leading us to what we're going to see in that closed deals box every single week. So these ones I'm going to go through now, they are a leading indicator. They're going to tell us what can we expect in that closed deals every single week.
Yeah, I would describe it as a lagging indicator is after the action has been taken. It is the result of your company's health. A leading indicator helps you diagnose the issues before they start hitting the lagging, right? So if you start seeing leading indicators, things that happen while you're doing the actions, if you start seeing those tail off, you don't have to wait until the lagging indicators, your profit goes down, to make a business decision. So Cade's starting with lagging because those are closed deals are actually critical, right, to the health of the business. Then he's going to get into all these leading indicators that lead up to this point.
So what are some leading indicators that will determine if a deal is going to close in a given week, right? Two of the ones that we look at for flip and wholesale specific. How many of our wholesale projects that we have listed have been listed on the market greater than 30 days? And for flips, how many of our fix and flip projects have been on the market greater than 60 days? Okay. From a higher level, why is this important? One, as a business owner, again, you could get a property listed and before you know it, you could be 60, 65, 70 plus days on market. And then all of a sudden turn around and look and be like, hey, what's going on with 123 Main Street? We got that listed. It feels like a long time. Like, where are we at on that one? You don't want to be reactive. You want to be proactive with these leading indicators that are going to get you to where you want to be. So on a weekly basis, all right, I'm going through this and I say, okay, shit, last week, guys, we had a flip pop up into our box that's been listed greater than 60 days. What's going on and what do we got to do? Okay, that prompts you to one, okay, let's do a temperature check on the project. You know, obviously these things should be happening already, but maybe they're not, and that's why it popped up into this box. Does it need fresh landscaping? Does it need just a touch-up cleaning on the inside and throw in a couple Febreze plugins so it smells a little bit better for the showings? It prompts a conversation with your agent, your listing agent for the property. Hey, what has feedback been? We've been listed at the same price for 60. Like, do we need to do a reduction? And maybe you could have gotten that feedback if you're paying attention to these KPIs sooner than when you actually catch them. Okay. So those are two things we're looking at. Two additional leading indicators that affect that big KPI of closed deals per week is, all right, we're in a new week. Hey, do we have any new projects that are either over timeline or over budget? Over timeline specifically directly affects the number of closed deals per week. Because if you have your projects running behind, contractor says this is a 5-week rehab and you're 6 or 7 weeks in, you now have to play the catch-up game with another project, and now you're 2 weeks behind on that deal. Instead of it closing in the week that it should have, it's now lagging a week or two behind. Now, projects over budget, that's tying into our number one KPI, profit, right? If you are looking on a weekly basis, you've got your team or somebody on your team is keeping a temperature check on your rehabs and on your flips. So at any given moment, you can say, okay, contractor said budget was $50,000. We are 5 weeks in of a 6-week rehab and we're already at $55,000. Shit, we're already $5,000 over budget. Why is number one? Were there unforeseen issues that popped up that were out of our control? Because that's an uncontrollable, right? That shit happens. Or was it something within our control? And now that project's over budget, we're going to either have to cross our fingers and throw it up and hope that goes above asking and we can recoup some of that cash. Or more than likely, you've now prepped yourself as a business owner that now, all right, project A is $5,000 over budget. We're going to have to make up that $5,000 from a different project if we're going to hit our profit goal for the year. And so those leading indicators directly affect, and we are looking at these again so far in this conversation, we are looking at these on a weekly basis. Every single Monday, Scott and I are sitting here and reviewing some of these KPIs to say, okay, how is this steering our boat for the rest of the year? And it directly affects those lagging and most important KPIs of profit and some of the ones that come under that, closed deals, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, so, I mean, you hit all the stuff. We went a little out of order here. You have closed deals. Thinking about the deal pipeline and the way a deal moves through our company, what happens immediately before the deal closes?
The deal closes on the purchase or the sale side?
To bring in revenue. What's the immediate step directly above closed deals?
Oh, yes. Okay. For our sale projects, one of the leading indicators is, hey, across the board, how many projects are actually in escrow to sell? They're not listed, right? We've actually accepted an offer and we have a concrete timeline on when that deal is going to be closed in order to recoup the cash. And again, that one really directly tying into the closed deals is, okay, we've got X amount of deals in escrow to sell. We've accepted an offer. Listing A or project A has a close date of this, project B has a close date of this, and project C is a little bit further out with a close date of this. You can start to piece the puzzle together on, okay, based on how many projects I have in escrow to sell, let's forecast. How many projects am I actually on track to close in the next few weeks? Am I going to be hitting the 2 deals that I need to close every week? Or based on what I have in escrow, we're really going to be at an average of 1.5 or 1, right? And it's like, okay, that leads you to go further up or further down the chain, however you want to look at it as, okay, hey, do we have any projects that are over timeline? Is that why we don't have enough properties listed to get an offer accepted on? Then it's a leading indicator again. Okay, hey, are we actually signing contracts that were in escrow to purchase? Are those escrows dragging out? If so, why? And then further up after that, are we just not signing enough contracts? You have to dissect and piece this puzzle together in order to have all of these flow in a way that's the most important for your business.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think if you were to break these out, your critical is profit. Right above that would be revenue. Right above that would be closings. Right above that would be in escrow to sell. Jenny uses a term hard contract, meaning all contingencies are removed, right? Because, you don't want to be budgeting for deals if they're going to fall out, right? And in this market,
very true.
1 in 7 houses is falling out, right? Above that, it gets into the ops KPIs, right? What you're talking about, budget, timeline, are houses sitting on the market for too long, right? Then even before that, then we're talking about acquisitions, right? So new projects into the pipeline. What's our total project pipeline health, right? If you're used to having 35 houses between being purchased, being fixed up, and being sold, if you start seeing that number creep up to 40, that's a good sign, right? That's a leading indicator of growth. If you start seeing it creep down into the 20s, then we're talking about we see a decay. Then going into the sales stuff even before that, what you just mentioned, right? Are we signing deals? Are we making offers? Are we going on appointments? Are we scheduling appointments? Are we qualifying sellers? Are we receiving phone calls? And then are we sending out mail, right? Or are you doing your marketing? So you can really track more granularly from the day that you're spending your money all the way through to the amount of money you're making back. And I think starting with profit and moving backwards is the way to look.
Well, and let's finish by just kind of diving into maybe that top of the funnel a little bit more. You named off some of those key KPIs. With you guys on the sales team, are you guys looking at that? Obviously, we know we're looking at it weekly. Are any of those needing to be looked at more frequently than weekly? How are you guys looking at it on the sales side?
We track everything on a weekly basis at this point. there were moments where we were tracking daily. As the team has gotten more comfortable, more prepared, we've moved away from specifically tracking day-to-day activity. I don't need to track you day-to-day. I need to see week by week. If you're going to come short on a week, then we need to start talking before the weekends, right? But even within that, I mean, minutely, we're looking at, for acquisitions people, like appointments, offers, contracts, closings, right? And then for lead managers who run the front of the business, theirs is even further up, right? It's minutes on the phone, number of calls in a week, number of set appointments, number of attended appointments, and then on the wholesale side, new buyers, new contracts, new offers.
Yeah, so, I was gonna mention exactly that because you, Mr. Worldwide, Mr. 305, just came back from what 8 days in Mexico in Cabo, bro, and I got to step in and really see and really digest some of these sales Stoplight KPIs on a deeper level than I usually do. And I was going to mention exactly like you said, not only time spent on the call, but your average time on the call per team member. And for you as a sales manager, why would that be important?
I mean, if I see a team member that's way off of base from the rest of the team, I know there's training needed, because it's very unlikely one team member is getting all the people that want to hang up the phone, right? Everybody should have a fairly similar blended average, and it should be a leading indicator to me that before we have to get to a PIP, before we have to get to firing somebody, because we've been paying them and they're not producing anything, we can train, right? We can make sure that we have a process that's clearly defined, make sure that we've trained them, make sure that we've set very clear expectations, and then at that point I have permission to look, is it the right person or do I have the wrong person?
Yeah. Yep.
I think, so I'll say this, I hate financials. God, do I hate financials. I hate being in financial meetings. I can't explain this to you. People are just different. Even when the financials are good, I hate being in a financial meeting. But I do enjoy KPIs. And I think the reason why is because they give you a grasp and a sense of comfort or discomfort that is rationally based, not emotionally based. And so the same way you brought it up, I am a salesperson. I focus on contract. And I need to also be aware when contracts are up, why are they up? And when contracts are down, when are they down? And so I don't go to you and Jason and say, let's set the target here because it's a nice number, right? Our last 2 quarters, our contract goals are not rounded numbers like 40 or 60 or 20.
No.
They're like 37. And then you look at it and you say, okay, well, what's 37 times our average revenue? Okay. And in order to get to 37, what do the KPIs above it have to be for the lagging indicator of contracts to match that, so that our critical metric of profit matches what we want it to be?
It's 100% right, dude. I think the topic of tracking this stuff is the difference between being, and I said it a little bit earlier, but the difference between being reactive and proactive. Are you constantly putting out fires and acting in a state of disarray in your business? When things are going well, it feels good, but you can't pinpoint it as to why things are going well. And when things are going bad, you're more, you beat yourself up more and you don't know why things are going bad, right? Wouldn't you guys, as a business owner, when things are bad, wouldn't you want to know why? And when things are going good, even more so, wouldn't you want to know why things are going good? That tells you the activities and the things you need to be doing in order to be in a good spot more often than you are in a bad spot, right? And so all of these KPIs, all of these stoplights that we're looking at on a weekly basis, they tell a story. They tell the story of not only what the current state of the business is, it tells you where you've been, where you are now, and where you're headed. And without tracking any of those, without knowing what's actually driving your business, you're riding on a boat with no end destination. You've got no rudder steering the ship. You're along for the ride. And that's where all the turmoil and everything starts to creep up and happen, is even when things are going good, you can't track them back to why. And when things are going bad, if you're not tracking, you don't know why. So that is why all of these things are so important, is they tell the story of where your business has been, where it is now, and where it's going.
1,000,000%. And I want to use an example here, talking about marketing, because that's really where, I sit more in the marketing section. I'm trying to find in my calculator. Sorry. You're not supposed to let the radio go silent.
It's all right. He's finding something really important.
What you get to when you have, like where we're at, we have multiple years of KPIs. Well, we're coming up on our second full complete year of KPIs that are actually tracked live. We're not going back retroactively. You get to the point where if you're looking at your team and you're seeing the performance is correct downstream from a certain KPI, you can then confidently invest into the hire, into the marketing, into a new market, right? And you can track, here is my hypothesis, right? We go back to the scientific process. I hypothesize that if I spend X amount and the team can handle it at their current production rate, then it will return this much back. And it makes stroking a big check of a new hire or of additional marketing or of a new market or of a new business venture significantly easier, because you're not going off of emotions, you're going off of facts. Does not mean you don't have to have faith that it will play out how you hope, because it's always not going to be fun to write a big check and to invest month after month after month when new hires, marketing, new ventures always take time to ramp up. But you aren't doing something that's going to accidentally sink the Titanic off of a feeling. You could be wrong, but at least you're not making the choice off of emotions, and you can go back and then see, where was my hypothesis inaccurate, right?
And here's a picture perfect example. 2 days ago, you and I were sitting here and we're saying, okay, we've got whatever it was. We've got $16,000 more in our marketing budget that we get to spend, right? We've got $16,000 to figure out where we're going to do it. What we didn't do was you and I sitting there and going, all right, 16 grand. I feel like TV could be good. Or, I feel like, throwing these dollars, maybe throw a little in Google Ads. Maybe we'll start up Facebook. We've got 16 grand. I feel like this is better, or I feel like this could be good. That's what we did not do, because we have been so diligent on tracking all of these KPIs. You and I sat here, our leadership team sat there and went, okay, with these $16,000, here's where we think that should go and why. And we backed it up with factual KPIs to show that if we spent $16,000 more on this specific marketing channel, we can expect X more calls in, X more appointments, and X more contracts signed based on that increased amount.
It got even deeper than that. It was this many calls will lead to this many people that fit our business model, will lead to this many people that accept an appointment, to this many people that will actually attend it, to this many people we will make offers to this many people who will sign on the dotted line, to this many people will make it through escrow and close, which would lead to $60,000 in profit. It's a lot easier to spend $16,000 when you know that if your team just maintains their performance, they will make $60,000 back. You just have to be patient enough for the marketing to ramp up, because the time it takes to spend the check will pay for the marketing that will go in the mail, that will end up at the seller's house. We know that they don't just call you day one. It may take up to 6 months for that portion of your marketing to actually catch up. At that point, you will start making 60. But you're spending $16,000 a month for 6 months. That's $96,000 investment before you get to that point where you're making 60 back. And that's not 60,000 profit, that's 60,000 revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to know how much revenue do I have to make to get to a profit margin that makes sense, right? So having all of this just gives you a lot more clarity. And when you know how your team has performed in the past when you increased marketing, then you can even say, okay, well, it's safe to assume if I increase my marketing by 30%, if you increase the workload on anyone by 30%, they will not perform identically correct. But we know this was the last time we did an increase of this kind of scope and scale. This was the personnel we had. This was the training we had given them. This is the process we were doing. This was how they reacted, which in the past we have found they have shown up. They have performed. So I just think the KPI situation, it allows you to do more on the business versus in the business.
And you said it best. The consequence of not doing so is you're steering an inevitable ship that is going to sink. It is going.
You won't
to
know
hit
where
the
to
ice.
plug it, dude.
No, you don't know. You don't know where you have to steer it in order to avoid the big ass iceberg that's going to sink your whole business. That's the consequence.
There's so many people that run their business on emotion, and what like blows my mind, because you and I have done this, is those fucking sleepless nights when you're staying up at night because the profit is dropping. The profit is dropping. And your idea of how to fix the business is coming strictly from the fucking thing that pops in your head at 11 o'clock at night when you're stressed out, not at 12 o'clock on Monday morning when you're proactively looking at the health of your business. You're doing a once over on the business. You're running the blood work. You're doing the diagnostics. You're taking it to the professionals that you know, the doctors who are going to say, yeah, your arm hurts, but this isn't coming from your arm. It's coming from blank. And now you're not treating the symptom. You're treating the actual source. And then you start moving forward. You don't start with like, well, I can't feel my hand. Maybe there's something wrong, right? Maybe I need to put on a glove. Well, if you can't feel your hand, maybe there's something in your central nervous system causing this issue. Let's address that. Let's not try to put your hand over a fire until you feel something.
You're exactly right, dude. You are 100% right. Dude,
it's the reason why we're growing in a really hard market is because we're tracking at this level of detail. And by the way, Jenny, who came on the podcast last week, just ripped me a new one this morning about we're not even tracking detailed enough, right? So each iteration of KPIs, you start with bare bones, and each iteration you keep adding, not for the sake of adding, but for the sake of clarity. Once you get in a habit, these KPIs take you and I 10 minutes to drum up every week. And then it takes us about 15 minutes to diagnose what things need to be moved to a deeper conversation and what things are healthy. And now you get to the point where, okay, 10 minutes that guides your ship, it can be 20 minutes if it's going to create double the value or 4 times the value of clarity.
Yeah, you mentioned it, dude, especially in a market that we're in now, which I would not define as an easy market to be in. Everything we talked about, these past 40 minutes becomes all the more important, not only for the current market we're in, but it helps you navigate worse markets. It'll help you double down and seize the advantage on really good markets. All of these things are stuff people should be working on now. And like you said, start with version 1. Then it's version 1.1. Then you continue to build and dig deeper and deeper and deeper in order to make even more efficient and educated business decisions so that your business, your boat, can weather any storm, whether it's sunny, whether it's a little windy, or whether you got a huge freaking hurricane coming in. You will be able to weather the storm because you have all of the data to back up all of these important educated business decisions.
Yeah, a million percent agree. And I also think, people wonder sometimes why we're a little bit ahead of a lot of newer investors on like where the market's going. Now, we're not as far ahead, like we're not like the biggest company in the country or anything. But even at our deal flow, I mean, we're typically 6 months ahead of a lot of investors, which leads to us reaping a lot of the reward. And by the time you're hearing about it, if you're not tracking this stuff, it's already too late. It's already a fad and it's on the way out. Wholetail is a perfect example of that. And there was a period in time where we started seeing the average revenue on Wholetail skyrocket the cash conversion cycle on wholesale skyrocket. And what ended up happening was a lot of that inventory started hitting the market and the model stopped working. And we pivoted back into wholesale and fix and flip. And so even by doing that, you can literally make more money without doing more work just by watching these things.
There it is.
Great topic, man. I think everybody fell asleep. So if you're still awake, kudos to you. Kudos to you, you big nerd. You nerds that stayed awake listening to two idiots talk about, key process indicators or key profit indicators. And come on now.
Hey, and we will see you nerds back next week on the Pursuit of Property podcast, baby.